Hey everyone, this is Michael Cohen, the Tech Rabbi, and welcome to another tutorial that is going to teach you how to use technology to create awesome things. Today, we're going to be focusing on a platform called Tinkercad. This is a free 3D design software that is web-based. It runs on your laptop, desktop. You could even run it on an iPad, and you can start creating awesome things in no time. So you're going to go to tinkercad.com. You're going to make a user account, and then you're going to log in. You're going to have access to what you see here after you've created a new design. So to run through the basics of this top gray bar and this sidebar is all about the shapes. You have a bunch of different shapes here. You also have other categories of shapes and some really cool preset things. You then have the ability to create a shape. And then as you can see over here, I'm just going to add a shape, right? I just literally clicked on the shape and dragged it out here, and it's waiting for me to place it somewhere on this grid, right? And once you place it, you're actually able to select it and decide, do I want it to be solid or do I want it to be a hole? And we're going to get into the details of that later. But right now, we're going to keep going. Up here, you have your classic copy, paste, duplicate, delete, undo, redo. You have also some new features, new different types of tools here to do things in this design program. You have grouping, you have ungrouping, you have aligning, and you have flipping. So we're going to focus right now on the following. This is a Ionic Bonding puzzle for a chemistry class. And what we're going to do here is we're going to create these pieces. We're going to be able to then 3D print them, and they're going to interlock together. And we are going to create ionic bonds that are balanced using the positive and negative charges as we're familiar with the different elements. But right now, I want to show you how to get and create a 3, 2, and 1 puzzle piece that is going to allow really great interlocking where you could combine technically a -1 and -2 to make a 3 or 3 negative ones and lock it in with a 3. And then using your skills, you'll actually challenge yourself to create a +4 puzzle piece. So what is going on here? I'm going to backwards design this for you, and then we're going to move forward and I'm going to show you how it was created. So this one is actually a series of different pieces. So I'm going to click on this right now, and I'm going to actually ungroup the design. So when I ungroup it, you're going to see that this is made up of a bunch of little pieces here. And what you want to be able to do is you want to create a standard size. If you are engaging in this project, you are going to want to follow my exact measurements. I've already printed out a test run, saw that it was literally 1 millimeter, or even it was just under, I think, 1 millimeter, the wrong size on these -1 puzzle pieces, and it would fit, but I had to really push it in, and it's meant to be a puzzle that locks together with ease. So 1 millimeter off actually makes a huge difference when you are creating things in the physical world. So I have selected here by just literally moving my mouse over to this design and clicking on it. And you'll see there are white boxes and there are black boxes. White are the corners of the design, and the black are on the faces, on the edges of the design, the shape, I mean. So you click on this and you're going to see a 1, a 1.5, and you're wondering to yourself, or at least I hope you're wondering, what do these numbers represent? Because if you start designing and you're like, oh, this is 20 by 30, and you're moving forward, and then when you export it and 3D print it, and you come back after your 3D print is done, you're going to see, oh, wait a second, why is this thing little and miniature? Oh, because I was using millimeters instead of inches. So you're going to go right away to Edit Grid, and you are going to look at your units. Now, default is millimeters because millimeters are just simple to design with because they run in the single, double, and triple of ones, tens, and hundreds, and it just makes things simple. But since I'm designing this tutorial for students in the United States, you need to be inches. We're using the imperial scale. So you click on inches, and then you actually click Update Grid. Now, if you look at presets, you can actually see a number of different 3D printers that you might have and be able to use. But right now I'm keeping it default, I'm keeping it inches, and I'm going to update the grid. Now, I'm going to show you something else that really confused me in the beginning. And so I'm just going to help you out right away so you are not confused. You have a snap to the grid, and default it is 1/8. These little squares right here are 1/8. And so if you notice right now, I'm moving this around and it is locking and snapping on this grid. I can't actually move it so that this corner is in the center of the grid, and it's driving me crazy. So I have to half my snap to 1/16, and guess what? Now I can get into the center of the grid. And look what happens. When I go to 132, I can get into the center of that. And then if I go to 164, I can actually get into the center of that. And so 164 is going to get a nice snap, but it's going to be much more detailed. You can decide, and you can change your snap as you go. So I just clicked delete. I could have also clicked the trash can, and we're going to get back over here. So I have this rectangle here. It's 1 by 1.5 inches. And I've decided that the piece that is going to extend off of that rectangle to be part of this type of puzzle piece is going to be 1/4 by 0.48 inches. And I chose that because I want that piece to fit into another piece that is right over here. And I'm going to show you just in a moment how big this is and how did I actually make this notch out go on the opposite side so that these puzzle pieces fit together. And so as I change the size, I can actually go over here and I can put in whatever I want. I can put in, 2.5, and obviously that's super big. And what we're trying to do here is to be exact in our dimensions. You could also click and drag here and see it move, but I think it's just easier to click and then type and then decide your exact measurements and move on with it. Okay, so I have right now these two pieces, and I actually can then group them together. Now, one of the things that is a little bit difficult, and it's sort of a really nice trick of understanding how the coordinates and how the numbering system shows when you're moving things around here, right? Because you're actually moving this around on an XY axis. I'm not even going to get to the Z axis yet, but that's there too. So if I am trying to get this piece right here, right? I want to get this piece attached right here. I want it to be in the center. So guess what? I'm going to click on these two objects, and I'm going to click on the align. And I now have a new set of features to manipulate these. And one of them is the center. And if you look over here, you can actually see that your design is previewing where it is going to move. And so when I click here, you can see that my piece moved here. So I'm going to go center, and then I'm going to actually go and I'm going to force it right over here to be totally connected at this one edge. And now when I click on this design over here, right? And I'm going to move this back here, okay? I'm going to move this back. Oh, nice. Sometimes you click just in the right or just in the wrong spot and it manipulates, and you'll just deal with that as it goes. So you're going to click align and you're going to have it in the center, okay? And then you're going to click the 2 here and you're going to make sure that it aligns right exactly at the edge. And then what you do is you select both of these because they're the same height. And so this one's actually kind of hidden inside. So you select both. How did I do that? I just clicked and dragged. This little dotted red box pops up. And then I hold down shift and I click on my bigger piece. And guess what? This little piece disappears. Now, this thing is 1/4 inch wide. So if I want them to extend from each other but be exactly connected, I'm going to move this object. How far? Well, 0.25. Guess what? This is exactly connected. So you don't have to move it around and try to guesstimate, is this exactly connected? If this right here is 0.25, 1/4, and I aligned them so that this corner is against this wall here. So moving from here to here, 0.25 is going to be exactly the measurement so that they are perfectly connected. And then we can join them together. And guess what? We're going to do the same. Okay. We're going to do the same for this one right here. So guess what? We're going to duplicate this, right? We're going to copy it. okay? We're gonna duplicate it, which is gonna paste it right on top of the other one instead of kind of off to the side, right? I think sometimes that can be frustrating. You copy and you paste and it duplicates it like off here. Like you don't want it over there. You want it to be exactly right here. So you click duplicate. And guess what? We're gonna move this. Now, this object is 1. So we're gonna move it up. We're gonna move it up -1. And it is going to connect exactly onto the edge of this one right here. And guess what? We're gonna do it again. We're gonna duplicate and we're gonna move it and we're gonna move it -1. And guess what? We're gonna select all 3 of these. We're going to group them together and there's gonna be no line. That means there's no space. These are perfectly connected. They didn't overlap at all, so you're not gonna lose the space. You're not gonna lose the distance. Now, that's for a 3. So I had duplicated, before I combined these, I had duplicated another one that is 1.5 inches, but as you can see here, it's a little bit smaller. So I'm gonna go into the reasoning for that as you create this shape here. So I'm gonna ungroup this and you're gonna see, oh, check it out, there's the hole. So this object here is 1.5 inches because I wanted them to be the same width. And I wanna punch out a notch so that this notch can go into it. And so if you look here, this hole is 1/4 inch wide, just like this was 1/4 inch wide, because I do want them to be flush together. I don't want to have any space. I don't want it to wiggle. I want it to actually connect. But if you look here, okay, this right here is 1/2 inch. And guess what? Over here, I'm just going to disconnect these real quick. And I'm going to show you right now, okay, this was 0.48 inches. And that was important. I actually missed that originally before I combined them to show you, only because I didn't want to confuse you. I originally made this 1/2 inch, and then I duplicated it and turned it into a hole to notch it out here. But guess what? I need it to be just a little bit smaller. So right now, this is 0.02 inches smaller, and that's just enough to get a nice fit, not too loose, and not obviously large enough that it won't fit together. So we're going to move back to uniting that all and uniting all of that, and we're good. Okay, so I have this hole here, and the hole and this object here, okay, I'm going to click on, I can drag and select both of these, and I can align them. I just want to make sure that this is lined up here, and it's aligned up here so that it's going to notch it out exactly at 1/4 wide and 1/2 an inch, okay? Now, one of the things besides for the length and the width, you also have the height. And the height is right here. This right here changes how high an object is, and this little cone actually lifts the object up in the z-axis space. And so what you end up with is you end up with the following, okay? I wanted this to be 1/8 inches thick. And if I wanted it to be 0.25, a 1/4 inch thick, I press enter, it's gonna move up. And it actually eats up the letter because the letter was a certain thickness and resting on the top. So you wanna make sure for your design that it's 0.125, 1/8 inch thick, okay? And so I have these lined up and I'm able to unite them together, to group them together. And then when I group it with a hole, it actually disappears. And so because this hole is a little smaller, and guess what? The width of the shape is also a little smaller. Instead of it being 1 inch thick, it's 0.975 thick. And that's going to be just enough that they're going to slide in nicely together. So I now have the ability to create a 3-sectioned object, a 1-section object, and then the way that I made the 2-sectioned object was as follows. This is 0.975 wide. So guess what? I'm going to duplicate this right here. Okay, I'm going to move this here. Okay, and this is 975. So I'm going to duplicate it again, and I'm going to move it up, and guess what? I'm going to put negative 0.975, and it is going, and press enter, and they're going to be exactly connected on that edge. I'm going to group them together, and it's going to create a 2-sized puzzle piece, as you see the example over here. Okay, so that is how you create and join shapes. That's how you adjust the height, the width, the size, also how you look at the way in which you are going to make sure that things lock together, but are just a little bit smaller so that it works. And you're able to now move on to the next level, which is the text level. So if I drag text out here, I can choose the font style. Here I chose actually just the sans style, and you could type BR. And you can change the height here. You could also change the height here. Sometimes I ignore these little levers or these little dials, because I think you want to work in the same style of measurements with everything so that it keeps you on track. But the bevel is pretty cool, because guess what? You can change the thickness of this. You can also change the segments so that you can get it to actually have like a cool rounded edge, or you can have it be super sharp and flat and standard like that. And then once again, you can move up this, you can move the sides of this. I hold down the shift key and it'll keep it in the right scale so that it won't get all stretchy like that. You just hold down and it'll just snap it. So I'm holding the shift key as I move this around, okay? So I want to change the text over here, and I move this around. So what I do is I go over here, and I have this text, right? So I have the BR, I have also the -1. I made 2 separate text shapes, and then I grouped them together, and I moved them over on top of, and I decided, this looks like a good place to place the letters, to place the number in the corner. And now I hold the cone, and guess what? You can move this, you can sink it into a shape. And what I do is I move it, and you see the blue line? The blue line shows you that it is floating and it's an independent shape. The moment it touches another shape, you're gonna lose that design, right? You're going to lose that blue outline, which means that it is now officially touching just at the basic, that minimum piece. Now, the problem is that bevel is going to make it a little bit elevated. So I'm actually going to move it down even more, and you're going to be able to turn and see that as well. And you could move it down even more, or really you could decide there's no real reason. But what I like to do is you can kind of see the shape, and the moment you push it in, you can see the dotted line is a little bit underneath. Okay, it's 0.016 inches down into that design. Okay, so I'm good to go. I duplicated it. How do I duplicate it? Once again, I click on this, I group it, I duplicate it, I have another one, right? So you have now followed this tutorial, paused it hopefully a couple times, rewatched it, and you are now able to create a 3, 1, and 2 shaped piece. So one of my questions is, what if you wanted to do a 4-piece? So I know that all you're going to do is double click on this, and then you're going to click on this, and you're going to duplicate it, and you're going to move it down. You know it's 1 inch, so you're going to go like that. And then if you want to move these shapes of the letter and this to get it lined up and have it lined up centered on the shape, and then you're going to just select all, and you're going to connect it, and now you have a 4 shape, even though it says +3, right? So I know that now you get this. If you have any questions, you can either connect with me face-to-face, connect with me on Twitter, connect with me on a comment on this YouTube video, and hopefully we will have you creating not just this, but utilizing all of the skills to be able to create super awesome ideas, materialize them into idea to design to print. And once again, thanks for watching. Subscribe, comment, and be part of the Educated by Design community. Thanks for watching.